Hey, my name is Jacob Caris, and over the last 14 years, I've advised hundreds of businesses. I've built my own businesses, and on this channel, I want to share the journey with you of building what I call my quiet empire model. Okay. Before we get into that and I explain what that model is all about, because it's going to be a central piece to this channel, I want to give you a little bit of context, tell you who I am, what I've done, and you can ultimately decide if this is something that you want to follow along with or not. So you see, this isn't actually my first YouTube channel. I have another channel that I've uploaded hundreds and hundreds of videos onto, and it's actually been a core part of my online business over the last 6 or 7 years. That channel has served me very well. But over the last 12 months, I've started heading in a new direction. I've started exploring different avenues. I became a father for the second time, and I've really reset my vision for where everything is going around this quiet empire model that I'm going to share with you in a moment. And so it felt really important to me to create a fresh, new, focused space to be able to share this new season and new phase. You see, on my other channel, which I'll link below that you can go check out, I share a lot more of the tactics and the systems and the ins and outs, the micro elements to running and growing an online business. And I will continue to do that. But I wanted this channel to be about having a bigger conversation, about really zooming out and looking at all areas of running a business, being a dad, working with multiple clients, running multiple businesses, and how do we manage all of that without sacrificing the important moments and achieving balance, about how do we build long-term wealth, right? Different investments. All of these areas come together to create what I call a quiet empire, where you're building a business, you're working with clients, you're working with good people on multiple different projects, and you're able to follow your passions and your interests in lots of different directions. And it's all compounding into long-term investments that can serve you and your family for the long term. But the key distinction, the big caveat on all of it is, how do we do that without compromising what's really important, without compromising our presence as a parent, without missing those really, really important moments, without sacrificing our physical health, without sacrificing our mental health, without trading our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s for hope that one day we might be able to sell our business or eventually have free time or eventually travel or eventually live whatever we consider to be our dream life. How do we do both of those things at the same time? Now, it's really important for me to put on the table, I'm not sitting here saying I've figured all of this stuff out. But I have been on this journey of how do we achieve this balance for a number of years. You see, I came out of high school, finished uni really quickly, and got into the corporate world in my very, very early 20s. And I dove in head first. I'm one of those people that I can't kind of go half into something. I fully commit to it, sometimes to my own detriment. And I spent the majority of my 20s working really, really big hours, 60, 80, even 100-hour weeks. After a number of years working in corporate in Australia, I moved to New York and did a couple of years there as well, where I worked on really, really big, distressed financial transactions, taking multi-billion-dollar companies through bankruptcy processes. And it was when I was in New York that I realized that this wasn't going to be the path for me for the long term. I saw people who, they made a lot of money, but they didn't have that balance that I ultimately wanted to achieve. And so it was as I was heading into the second half of my 20s, I started looking for a different path, started looking for a way out. And I started my first online business. And then that was ultimately what allowed me to leave corporate. And in future videos, I'm going to go into, the full story and kind of how I got here. But once I left corporate and went all in on my online business, I repeated a lot of those same mistakes. I was working too much. I didn't have the balance between physical health, mental health, family, relationships, and the business. The business took over again. And while it was doing really well, it wasn't allowing me these other areas of life that I was ultimately seeking when I started the business originally. It wasn't until I became a dad for the first time in 2023 and in kind of I would say 12 to 18 months leading up to that, as my partner and I started talking about having kids, and then we ultimately went down that path, that I really started to slow down and flip things from running the business first and fitting life in around it to designing life the way that I wanted it to be, and then building systems and strategies and frameworks and models to allow that to happen, right? And setting boundaries and setting rules and not compromising on them, putting myself, my health, my family, presence, well-being, and the life that I actually want to live as the priority. And then the business can fit in around that. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Okay. I took this to another level at the back end of 2024 and early 2025 with my second son arriving in March 2025. And that's how we arrive here today, because it was in the lead up to him being born. His name is August. Where I really sat down and mapped out this quiet empire model. Now, I'm incredibly grateful for this journey that I've been on, and that now it allows me to sit here and share all of these things that I've learned with you in the upcoming videos, and share everything that I'm picking up along the way, right? This business, this online business game, my corporate career before that has served me very, very well. And I'm so grateful that I now get to live a life that honestly, even just a few years ago, I couldn't have possibly imagined, through the strategies, frameworks, models that I want to share with you on this channel. And so that raises the question, who is this channel really for? And specifically, what are we going to cover? Fundamentally, I think it's for two different types of people. One, I think it's for people who are already deep in the business game, whether it's an online business, an offline business, you've got a personal brand, you're already on this path of doing things for yourself, but maybe you haven't quite found that balance yet. Maybe you're working too much. Maybe your income is too tied to how many hours you put in each week and how much energy you put in each week. Or maybe you've got a vision for building something bigger beyond just that business. You've got passion projects that you want to explore. You want to translate that online cash flow into investments, or that business cash flow into other investments to build more stability for the long term for yourself and your family. I think you're going to find this channel very, very helpful, and I would love to have you on the journey with me. The second bucket of people that I think this channel will be helpful for is those people who like all of the ideas that I've been talking about, but maybe you haven't taken the leap yet, or maybe you've been dabbling for a while, but you're still working a full-time job and trying to work out your path out. How I think that I can help you is, let's do it right the first time. Let's build a path to get you out, building your own offline, online empire that allows you to have that balance, that allows you to be there for your family, that allows you to build long-term wealth, all of those elements. And let's do it right the first time so you can avoid so many mistakes that I made both in my corporate career and when I came online. Those are the two different types of people that I think this channel is really going to be for. And so in terms of videos, what can you expect? As I sit here now, obviously things can change and evolve, but I see 4 different types of videos ultimately being published here. The first is documenting and sharing behind the scenes of my own businesses that I run myself, without partners, without anything like that. My own online businesses that run day in and day out. My main one as I sit here today is called Caris Digital, and I'll share more about that with you in the upcoming videos. That's the first bucket. The second is under an arm of my business that I call Caris Capital. This is where I advise other businesses. This is where I partner with other businesses. This is where myself and perhaps an operating partner might step in and run a certain part of somebody's business, their marketing, for example. So this is where I get exposed to a lot of different other businesses, a lot of really interesting projects, a lot of early stage businesses in an advisor, a consultant-like capacity. And so within what I can share from a confidentiality perspective, that's going to be the second bucket, where I can share the insights and the lessons from being at the table in all of these other businesses in my role as an advisor or a partner or a consultant. The third is, if we've got these businesses running, what do we do with that cash flow? Okay, now I'm not a financial advisor. It's not going to be financial advice, but I just want to share with you what I'm doing, right? any real estate plays that I'm making, any other interesting investment opportunities that I'm looking at. I just want to document that part of the journey. And if that inspires you to go and make certain moves for yourself, if there's something that you've always wanted to invest in, if there's something that you've always wanted to be an owner of, hopefully it inspires you to go and make that move. So that's the real long-term wealth building piece of all of this. And then the fourth element and the fourth type of video that will really tie all of it together is what I'd call life and identity. I'm going to be talking about being a dad, talking about creating freedom and autonomy, these concepts around lifestyle design, and then how does all of that flow into those other three categories? How do we run our own businesses? How can we be involved in multiple different projects that we're really interested and really passionate about? And then how do we build that long-term wealth without compromising these things, without compromising balance, without compromising presence, without compromising performance? And how do we ultimately bring it all together? Because fundamentally, those four areas are what make up this quiet empire model that's really going to drive the direction of this channel. Sometimes in these videos, you'll join me here in the office. Sometimes we'll be at my home and we'll be talking through some deeper conversations. And sometimes I might be on the road, I might be traveling, and it'll just be me and the camera and yourself having a conversation about one of those areas of the overall model and what we're really building here. With all that said, if any of what I've mentioned today is of interest to you, if you feel like you fall into one of those two lanes that I think that this channel is ultimately going to be for, or if any of those areas of content feel like they would be particularly interesting and particularly relevant to you, I would love to have you as part of the channel. I would love you to be a subscriber. I would love you to engage in the comments below. I'd ultimately love to build a community of people around this channel who are building their individual quiet empires, who want to run their own businesses, who want to work on different projects that really interest them. Maybe you want to be a consultant. Maybe you are a consultant. You want to advise. You want to partner with people. You don't want to be pigeonholed into just doing one thing or just scaling one business. And you're really interested in building long-term wealth and the different vehicles that are available to do that, but you aren't prepared to compromise on being a mum, being a dad, your physical health, your mental health, and you're not prepared to delay giving all of that the attention that it deserves into the future. Okay, it's about achieving balance across all of those areas starting today. Okay, so if that's of interest to you, I'd love to have you here as part of this channel. And with that all said, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.